Hello. In this video we're going to see how to install and set up the new BR Stats application, as well as take a quick look at the features and facilities available within the application. So let's get started with downloading the application. Go to our website www.broadcastradio.com, drop down products, go to streaming software and then across to Broadcast Radio Stats. This is the standard page for the Broadcast Radio Stats application. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can download the trial here, and the trial can become a full application once you've inserted the license code when you've purchased the software. When you click on download, it'll take you to a separate website, App Center. The reason we are distributing the BR Stats package through the App Center is this facilitates the ability to be able to check for updates from the menu option in future. So this will be the only time you need to go to this website. Click download. It'll download the installer into your downloads folder. And once that file is downloaded, go to that folder, which you can do by clicking on here, and then double click on that to actually run the installer. The installation process is very simple. There are no options or anything, so you just follow the instructions. We're not going to cover that in this video because it should only take you a few clicks. So we're going to jump straight to the application being installed. Before we start to configure the software, it's worth just visiting exactly how the structure of the BR Stats software works. It comes in two parts, and there is a Windows service that runs in the background, and its job is to connect to your streaming provider every X many seconds and find out how many people are connected, who's connected, and store all that information in a local database. Then there's the UI, which is used to view that information and to get the stats you want out of the system. So that means that the service needs to be running all the time in the background, which also means that the service must be installed on a computer that is running 24/7. If you install this on a computer and then turn it off for the evening, then it won't be gathering stats through that time period. So it's important to put the service onto a PC that is running all the time, such as a server or a player system PC. Once the information is in a database, the UI is used to access that information and to view the stats, and you can also extract the information if you need to. The first time you run the BR Stats UI application, it will automatically open the Edit Station window, as there is no stations configured right now. We're just going to close this for a second. We'll come back to this in a second, because I wanted to just first of all show you the very simplest way of doing it if you're a Broadcast Radio streaming customer. If your streaming is being hosted by Broadcast Radio, you would have received an email from us when you signed up for your service, and part of that email would have included two documents, some streaming details PDF, which has got all of the information that we're going to need to type into this application in a few moments. But you would also have got a Broadcast Radio streaming configuration file. If you're an existing customer, you can request this file from us as well, and we can resend it to you. And this file contains all the information in a predetermined format that the BR Stats application can understand. So here I've got one that was sent from us, and to load this into the BR Stats, you just simply go on File, Import Streaming Details, navigate to the file, so it's on my desktop here, hit Open. It'll say, do you want to continue? Say yes, and you can see that it's brought in all of the details, so I don't have to do any configuration manually. Let's say we didn't do that. Let's say we wanted to add a new one, so I'm just going to delete this station out. And I want to go to stations and new station. So the first thing you do is give it a station name. So let's give it a name. Okay, and then we need to put in some streaming details. So we're going to click on the plus here to actually add the stream. Now you can add multiple streams. So if you've got different suppliers, or if you have different bitrate streams, then you can add them in. So the key information you're going to need to put in here is the name of the stream, the server type, whether it's Icecast, which is what Broadcast Radio use, or Shoutcast, which is what other companies use, such as radio.co. Whether this stream is enabled, you need to type in the host URL, i.e. the server address, the port that you want to use, the mount point, which is usually the unique mount point for your particular stream or your station. You're also going to need to put in the admin username and the admin password. Now, if your service provider has not provided you with the admin password, generally speaking, on IceCast systems, the admin password is the same password that you use for connection, but with the word admin in front of it. Finally, if you are a Broadcast Radio customer and you are using our resilient streaming package, either Platinum or higher, if you tick this box here, then the system will automatically connect to both the Prime and the backup streaming connections. If I switch to a Shoutcast service, you can see it's virtually the same. The only difference is the mount point is replaced with the Shoutcast Stream ID. So let's go ahead and add in some details. Let's open up this PDF I've got here. Here you can see we've got the key information that we need. So we needed the mount point, which is here, the password, which is here, and we'll need to put admin in front of that in order to make it work. Also the address, which is here, and the base port, which is here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that information in. Okay, so I've added all that information to the stream details here, and once I'm happy with that, just click on OK. You can see it's now been added as a stream within this station. If I wanted to add additional streams, and then I could keep adding them in here, I can also edit the details or remove them. Once you're happy, click on OK. You can see that the green tick means that the system has connected. OK, and after a few seconds, if it can, it will display the now playing information. If you have multiple stations, then each station will appear as a tab in this area here, and each of the streams will appear listed underneath the station. So that's it for the stream and the station being added. Next, we're going to have a look at what information we have available to us. In order to do that, we're going to switch to an installation that's been keeping stats on some stations for a while now, so we've actually got some stats to work with. Here we have a configuration with a couple of stations already set up in it. So we've got Hot FM, Hot Digital and Hot Extra, and we can switch between them by clicking on the tabs here, and we can see for each one we can see the current amount of people connected, the peak today, and also we can view the stats themselves. So let's take a look at the stats by clicking on the View button. So here we have the stats screen. When it first loads, you get a summary page which gives you key information about your station that's useful to you. So let's have a look at what we have available here. The top section allows you to select and change the types of results. So you've got, the first thing you can do is change the station if you wish to, and you can also change the stream you're listening to or looking at stats for. If you have multiple streams set up, you can also view the stats for a combination of all those streams. The group by allows you to change the resolution of the x-axis on some of the charts. So you can see currently we're grouped by 15 minutes, but if we wanted to, we could change that to be by the hour, and you can see that it's given us a slightly different looking chart there because we are grouping now hourly rather than every 15 minutes. You can set the period, so we can see here we've got the last 24 hours, or you can look at today, this week, last 7 days, last 14 days. The difference between this week and the last 7 days is a week starts on Monday. So if you look on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday would actually be empty because they are in the future, whereas obviously if I'm looking at the last 7 days, no matter what day I look at, it goes back 7 days from that day. And if you choose custom, you can also then set the start and end date, so you can look at any time frame that you wish to. Over on the right hand side here, we have the export button. This allows us to export the currently selected information. So let's say we were on listeners, and we can see we've got listeners by hour here, and I wanted to export that. I can click on the export button and then just save it as a CSV file that can be imported into many other applications. Finally, there's a refresh button here. You only have to click that if you change either the station or the period. So let's say I was looking for the last this week. I can click on here, and you can see I can click on update and it'll give me the full week to date. So you can see it's Thursday today. So Friday, Saturday and Sunday are no longer haven't got any stats yet because of course they haven't happened yet. While we're looking inside here, most of the stats have one or two different options available to them. So currently the bar chart here allows us to view this by whichever group period we've done. So if I set this to be hourly, we should see that it'll update to be hourly. So that's pretty useful. But if I was only after a top level number, I could click on the show individual number, and then it'll just show us a total of all those listeners. So this week I've had 3,356 listeners. Some charts also have pie charts available. So if I go to the countries one here, you can see we've got also a pie chart as well as a bar chart and a number frame. Go back to my summary. The summary, as we already mentioned, has all the key information for the station available. So it's got things like the connections, the countries, plus also total listener hours, unique listeners, that type of thing. The connections gives you a breakdown of how many people have connected, not how many people, how many connections there are. So if one person listens, disconnects and then reconnects 5 minutes later, that would count as 2 connections, but only one listener. So we can see here, I'm currently looking by hour. So at 4 p.m, a total of 452 connections were made to our station. Very closely related to that is listeners. The difference is that this takes into account reconnections by the same IP address or user agent. So this is far more representative of what your station or who is listening to your station, because it is not counting reconnections as separate connections. We can also go into total connections, which is essentially gives us within the time frame 3,310 connections were made to our station. Average duration is useful because this gives us a breakdown of when people were connecting and how long they were listening for. So here we can see over the last 24 hours, the time when people were listening the most was here. Total duration gives you your listener hours. So this is useful if you are just trying to work out how many listener hours you've actually streamed to listeners within the time frame you're looking at. Countries allows you to do either a breakdown of country as a pie chart. So you can see the vast majority, 98.3% of the listeners connecting to this station were from the United Kingdom, but we had 13 from Germany and we had 12 from the Netherlands. You can also dial into this a little bit more detail by going onto the bar chart, because you can go in and pick your country. So if we pick the United Kingdom, we can now see from the United Kingdom where the peak connections or listeners are by hour or by whatever group and time frame you've actually set up here. Finally, we have the devices option. So devices allows you to see what devices or platforms people were using to listen to. So you can see currently I'm on the Android here, and we can see by hour where our peaks are with people connecting on Android. But if I flip to the pie chart here, we can see all of the different devices or user agents that are connecting. And we can see we're fairly even on this station between Alexa, iPhone and Android. With a little bit of iPad, and then you've got lots of other connections down here, and you can see on this list here exactly which connections are where. So that's the stats we have available for you within the system. We also can get a listener hour report, which is useful if you are reporting to copyright bodies that require listener hours. That particularly applies to web licenses issued by PPL and PRS in the UK. So let's have a look at that next. Back on the main screen UI, choose the station you wish to get listener hour reports for, then click on View and Total Listener Hours for copyright reporting. This opens a separate window. Here you can see the first thing you need to do is choose your station and your streams. Again, as with the stats, if you have multiple streams, then you can choose a combination. Choose the quarter and the year, and the system will work out the overall listener hours for that quarter. So if this is a quarter that's already finished, this is the number you need to report to PPL and PRS. If you haven't quite finished the quarter, you can also use the projected total. So here you can see we haven't quite finished Q2, and this is what the system thinks will be around the figure for Q2. So you can use that if you need to report ahead of time. Finally, you can copy this report to the clipboard so you can paste it into any document or email or anything else that you need to submit to the body. Finally, let's take a quick look at the menu options. On the File menu, we have the option to import the stream details, which we did at the beginning of this video, or close the UI. Remember, the stats gathering service will continue to run in the background, so you can close this window without stopping your stats from being gathered. Under the Stations menu, you have New Station, which is used to add new stations, Edit Stations, which is used for edit the existing stations, or Delete Stations. If you do select Delete, you will be asked to confirm, but if you say yes, it will delete the station and the associated data from the database, so be careful. On the View menu, you can access the statistics. This has the same effect as clicking on the View button here. You can access the service log, which gives you any error messages or anything else that comes in. So if you're having problems, it may be a good place to start looking here before you contact support. Also on the View menu is the total listener hour for copyright reporting that we were looking at just a few moments ago. Moving on to the Settings menu, you have Application Settings and License Details. So let's have a look at both of those options. Application Settings allows you to set some of the base settings for the application. So here you can see the location of the database and you have the ability to move it. You can also set how often to automatically download the GeoIP database that is required to be able to determine which country of origin listeners come from. So currently it's set to automatically download every Wednesday at midnight. You can also add a application password and a settings password in here. So if you don't want people to be able to get straight into the stats or to be able to fiddle with the settings, you can just simply put in a password in here, and then you'll be required to type that password in before you can access either of those settings or the application as a general. And finally, under statistic options, you can set a threshold below which you ignore listener connections. So here we can see by default, any connections that were less than 2 seconds are being discarded by the system. That's because they're most likely going to be robots or search engines or something that isn't really applicable to the useful stats you're trying to get for your station. You might notice throughout this video that we've been running on evaluation mode. So when you download BR Stats, you can run it for 30 days without having a license. But after 30 days, you are required to either stop using the service or purchase a copy from our website. Once you've purchased a copy, you'll be sent a license code. So once you've got that license code, you go into Settings, go to License Details, Install or uninstall license key. So I click on Install. I paste my code into here. I click on Install. It checks with our servers and you can see it's licensed. And that's it. We need to restart the software for that to take effect. If at any point you wanted to move the software to a different computer, you can do the same thing. You go into Install or Uninstall and you actually uninstall the license. That will actually then remove the link from this computer to the license on our licensing servers, meaning you are then able to reuse the license key we sent you on a new computer. Finally, on the Help menu, we have access to the Help menu, which will take us to the help desk on our website with the associated articles regarding BR Stats. You can also check for updates. This will check our servers and see if there is a newer version, and if there is a newer version, it will ask you whether you want to do an in-place upgrade, in which case if you say yes, then the system will automatically upgrade the rest of the system to the latest version. Finally, we have the version history, which allows us to see what new features or fixes have been added to the latest releases. and the About menu, which just gives us the version number and release date. So that's everything you need to know about BR Stats. My advice would be to download it, have a play with it in evaluation mode and see how you get on. Thanks for watching.